Welcome to the Welsh Yogi podcast.
I don't think I'm even on this morning.
Welcome to the Welsh Yogi podcast.
So we set in the tone, right? This is the tone that we set in.
It's on those mornings this morning, isn't it? I think
It's one
everyone's
of those
feeling it.
lifetimes go by, right? But we're one of those lifetimes.
Yeah, there's something in the planets. Are you Ben?
Yeah,
Go
to
on.
do with
Talking of planets, yeah. Talking
What planet are you on, Ben?
I'm out with this world. So the Welsh Yogi podcast brings a timeless, time-tested teachings of India to the 21st century.
You don't proper Welsh. Really.
We draw from the ancient Sanskrit wisdom texts like Sri Upanishad and Bhagavad Gita to give you the tools you need to inject some spiritual philosophy into your modern lifestyle. Level up your perspective and get connected. Yay.
And then you got a rap as well, right?
No, that's
So welcome back to the Welsh Yogi podcast, part 2 of our interview with today's host, Tara Canaf, and
I'm not the host. Why am
guest hosts.
Okay. I'll be whoever you want me to be today, Gopal. Right, Prabhu? I'll be whoever you want me to be.
So I really enjoyed last week hearing about, was it Buzz, who became Bindu Madhava?
Mm-hmm.
And
God rest his soul.
where we left off, I think, so you just come into contact with spiritual life. You're in the valleys.
We're going for, okay.
But I was quite interested about, because I think, and we talked about, a lot of people might be interested in spiritual life or want to become quote unquote spiritual, but they don't want to buck the trend maybe, or don't know how to do it. And what we've talked about before in the podcast is that for everything you need a teacher, and same goes with spiritual life, right? So I was wondering if maybe you could talk a bit about why do we need a teacher? Is there such thing as a real bona fide teacher in spiritual life? Maybe how did you meet your teacher? If something like that. That's what I'd like to start off with. What do you think?
Yeah, we've been reading Sri Upanishad in like previous episodes, and we came across this word like bona fide spiritual master, and we were just talking about these different personalities. Like we talked about Deva Marita Swami, and how they have like a certain presence about them, and a certain like, I don't really know how to describe it.
There's loads of people on the market. You know what I mean? If you go into it, there's so many.
Well, everyone needs a teacher anyway, right? We all need them. The first gurus are the parents. That's what it is, isn't it? So everyone needs a teacher. So guru means teacher. We kind of have this mystique thing about a guru, isn't it? But everyone has a guru. We have lifestyle gurus, fitness gurus. We in our everyday life. When we're children, our parents are our guru. When we go to school, the teachers are our guru. Your driving instructor is your guru. It means he's teaching. That means we get in taught. So same as anything, you want to get taught anything, you need a teacher. So spiritual knowledge is the same, or spiritual life is the same. We just need a teacher to find out about it. Like you need a teacher to find out about anything. So it takes away that little mystique, but it's practical. Spiritual is practical.
Yeah. But there's so many teachers now, especially like with Facebook and YouTube, and everyone can put a camera.
Everyone wants to become a guru.
Everyone wants to become a
Follow
guru.
me, yeah. I've got something to say, and I guess it's just much easier now with this technological world. Everyone can, whatever opinion people have got, they can just go on a computer now and they can put it out there, and they can. I mean, that's the one thing. It is a downside to all this age of information. The more and more information that's going out there, I can see there's more and more people becoming confused, because there's so many teachers saying so many things, and the end result is people are really bewildered. Like the pandemic now, I mean, it's a classic. Is with the vaccine, do we vaccine? Do we not? Is it
so many theories?
So many theories.
Theories,
Everyone's got an opinion, and everyone's a teacher.
And you find these like little echo chambers form. So like a group of people that believe the same thing are all bouncing the same thing off each other.
Yeah,
like that.
Someone in one with some nut job theory, for want of a better word, connect with some other nut job theories the other side of the world, and they connect, and then they'll just start And what I said this in class yesterday, the way to see that the truth in Kali Yuga, because this is a very degraded age, the truth become known. Whoever shouts the loudest for the longest is accepted as truth.
Yeah.
So you just keep banging it out, and then people, it just becomes, oh yeah, because they heard it so much, it must be true. I heard it on the internet, or I've seen it on the news, or I read it in the Sun or something, whatever daily paper you read, you begin it, and that's that becomes your narrative. So you've got to be. It requires a little discrimination, a little to discriminate. Okay, where do I go? Where do I?
Because how are you gonna? That's the thing, isn't it? Like how do you know then? Like if you're, there's a lot of sincere people out there.
Yeah.
Where you're just in the jungle trying to look. You can't see the wood from the trees, sort of thing.
I was wondering what that was coming through. I just seen a head pop what his hell is. So I thought they've landed. Sorry, Ellis.
You wave the camera.
Yeah.
Charlie, you checking the audio as well? We said you'd have your headphones in while we're doing it. Okay, good.
Yeah, where were we before?
How do you know?
Before we were interrupted by an illegal alien. He's looking at me now. Look at this.
I can't remember. We were talking about.
How do you know? That's the thing. Like everyone's, on there, like on the mic, sort of.
So, like I said, you have to have a little discrimination. You have to have a little knowledge. You have to have a little something, or you will get cheated. You have to. So you have to make your own little study on whatever knowledge you want to get into. You have to have some sort of knowledge. Because if you don't know anything. And that's why we recommend the Bhagavad Gita. Everyone, can you put a shot of a
If anyone needs a copy,
it'll give you the basic. But or whatever, you have to have a little knowledge. If it's Bhagavad, whatever spiritual book or whatever book on anything, not just spirituality. If you don't have some understanding, you don't make a little inquiry and look at it. You'll get cheated. Prabhupada will give the example. If you don't know anything about gold, and you go to some cloth shop and ask for a pound of gold, you think, oh yeah, they can see this person doesn't know anything, so they'll just give you, or they'll just give you anything and say that's gold, and then, because as they say, all that glitters is not gold, so you can get this. Yeah, there's so many cheaters that will, or people that will prey on other people's naivety, and especially people's spirituality. This is practically no one knows what's going on. So then, and there's so many false gurus out there, so many people who will take advantage of people's naivety, as I'm saying. So you have to have a little understanding. You
got to know what you're looking for.
And then check it out. Don't just take the first thing you come across either. So that's why for me, or for us, you look at the Bhagavad Gita, it'll give you an objective, real basis, good basis on spiritual life. And the first step in spiritual life is to understand there's a difference between the body and the self. See, most people want spiritual life and material life at the same time. I just want to. I want to do what I do, and then just be spiritual, and just tag a tagline on. I'm spiritual, but what does spiritual mean? No, practically no one knows what's actually spiritual. So if you read the Bhagavad Gita, it gives a definition of what's material and what's spiritual. Anything material is temporary, means it has a beginning and it'll have an end. But something which is spiritual is enduring. It doesn't have a beginning and it doesn't end. It lasts. So it goes beyond this body, which has a beginning and has an end. So those are just basic tenets, and that's the same in any spiritual organization or spiritual teaching should begin with that. That's a basic. That's just a real fundamental building block. ABCs of spiritual life. Who you are, then you've got to investigate that. But because there's so many people out there saying, yeah, you can be material or do what you like and just add some spirituality into your life by chanting some mantra or just going into your own space and in the name of spirituality, you might be, you might not, but you've got to, so it needs a little inquiry, and therefore that's why we'll need a teacher. Same as anything else, you're going to become a doctor. You go to British medical school, so you'll get, It's not a, see, if you just read a book, and which is what people do, they read a book and I know what, yes, I know what the Bhagavad Gita, I know, or whatever.
I've read a book on
I've read a book on it. It's like reading a book on, medical science and saying, okay, I'm a doctor. I know what it is. I've read a book on it. I mean, would you trust that person? And would you like to, to perform an
Heart
operation?
transplant or
Yeah,
something.
to perform an operation on you? Would you put your life in his hands? Or no, and they call charlatans. So would you put your spiritual life, which in someone's hands who just read a book, or someone who knows?
Need to be trained properly.
Yeah, of course. You need to be. You need to have gone to a teacher, a teacher who knows. And what's that teacher's qualification? Just as someone says, "I'm a doctor," you'll say, "Okay, what's your qualification? Where have you been trained? What school did you go to? What's your qualification?" And then if you really want to know, you should ask him some questions on medical science. So therefore, that's a prerequisite. You should know something. So someone who wants to be spiritual or wants a spiritual guru, you should, and that's what Bhagavad Gita says, Tadvani Pranipatina, must one inquire, must one ask questions. It rules out blind faith. Don't blindly follow no one. You should question everything. Doubts means intelligence. It means we're questioning. We shouldn't accept anything blindly. And that's what people try. That's what people do on the internet. They just put something on, and people are following without fact checking it. There's a big thing. No one's fact checking anything or checking with the source. Where's this knowledge coming from? What's the source of your knowledge? Because it's so much out there. But you want to trace out the Bhagavad Gita? Yes, this was spoken in an ancient time. You can trace it out. You can trace it out to its origins. It's clear. Krishna spoke this some 5,000 years ago. It's documented. Krishna was a historical person. It's documented. It is. So the point is you don't just accept anything that you hear. You have to question.
So about then what you say to because most people might be like, well, spiritual life, material life, whether it's, what do you use, bona fide or not. Most people probably, honestly think, well, I just want to be happy. I don't really think whether I'm being material or spiritual. If who I'm listening to is necessarily authorized, but I just want to be happy in this world, and whatever makes me happy, I just go with it. If your spirituality doesn't make me happy, if a certain teacher, I'm getting something from it, and I'll listen.
Well, we all want happiness. How happy are you? Then what's your litmus test? Okay, what are you gauging your happiness to? You're gauging in to what? It's we're getting really philosophical on this. We've gone right in. We've gone in on the deep end, Because he invited me under false pretenses. Just come tell a few jokes. Okay.
Yeah, that's what we're
but everyone wants to become happy, but the thing is, okay, if like we talked last week, if the methodology by which we are told in material life is to go to school, get your degree, get your certificate, get your PhD, then go out in the world, earn some money, and become happy. Okay, where are all these happy people? If that's our plan A, that's just it. We need a plan B. There's so many rich, beautiful, famous people, all these things that people think will make us happy: fame, fortune, wealth, bodily beauty, and But what we said last week, what percentage of these guys are happy? I mean, I don't know. It's probably pretty low. You see so many. It's always on the news. On something, they're coming out of rehab, or their relationships are breaking up, so they're having all the same problems that we have. So that's the urban myth: is that if we think we'll get all this wealth and this be famous and so forth, that'll make us happy, but it doesn't, because they're having the same problems we do. All the rich people, they're the ones behind the iron gates, and because if you're rich, then there's anxiety of keeping it. And if you're not rich, there's anxiety of you wanting to be there. So you're striving for it, and then people get there. Then there's anxiety of how to keep it, how to hold it. So you can't avoid anxiety. And then if you're in anxiety or distress, then how can we become happy? So that's the point. We want to be happy, but in this world, you can't Everyone's trying to become happy and avoid distress. You can't do it. Impossible. It's like two sides of the same coin. You can't have one side of the coin without the other. You can't have heads without the tails. So you can't have happiness without the distress. So we're spending all our time just trying to become happy and trying to avoid distress, but you can't avoid it. So the Bhagavad Gita gives a solution. It's how to deal with it. We're nothing to do with the happiness and distress in this world, ultimately.
I think you hit on like a really important point there. Like once someone gets rich and has all of these things, they're trying to defend it.
Yeah.
It's because it's going to eventually be taken away. And you were talking about Bhagavad Gita and how it talks about there's the material things are temporary and the spiritual things are not temporary. So like this idea of looking for that happiness in a temporary place is ultimately going to leave you dissatisfied because it's going to leave. Like that was what struck me when I first read the Bhagavad Gita. Because I was trying to be like an artist or trying to be something like this, but then I realized all of these endeavors are going to be kind of washed away by time.
I always remember thinking like, I mean, before I come to spiritual life, it was like, there was just like, but things come in threes, wasn't it? I was going to have the rug pulled, you have the saying, you're going to have the rug pulled under your feet. Some things are happening, all bad's going to happen. Whenever we understand it on one level, but then there's a disconnect because we're not dealing with that then. We're always trying to kind of, okay, then when something bad happens, just keep trying to try to connect back up to the happiness but there's always some distress, always something coming in which is interfering, which is disconnecting us from that happiness. So, but when you understand the spiritual life is when you understand your spiritual nature, and then you connect to that spiritual nature, and when you have a strong connection in that spiritual nature, then nothing material can disconnect you. It ultimately doesn't matter what, whether you're rich, whether you're poor, whether you have a beautiful body, an ugly body, a fat body, thin body. It doesn't matter whether you live under the tree or you live in a palace, ultimately. Because nothing material can then interfere with that happiness that we're looking for. But in the material world, we all want to become happy. In the material world, it's getting interfered. There's something always coming in and which is causing a disconnection from that, breaking that. You know, I have a wonderful relationship with my girlfriend and she dumps me for someone else. So I have a job and I get made redundant because of the political climate. I'm on an ugly holiday, a holiday of a lifetime, and then a tsunami comes in. You know, it happens. We're on 1 minute people are on a beach, and the next minute there's a tsunami coming in. That is the nature. This is the nature of this world. And we say, oh yeah, we think it's not going to happen to us. That's the thing. We think it's not going to happen to us, but it will. At least in the form of death. At some point, it's going to come. Death and taxes. You can't avoid it. And most people get taxed to death. That's what generally happens, you know. But so that's what. So you want to inquire. You need a teacher for sure. Same as anything else. There's nothing mysterious about it. It is in one sense, but in another sense, on one level. Everyone needs a teacher. Everyone needs a teacher.
And how have you found then, because last time we talked about, you're in the valleys sort of thing, you're into sort of spiritual life, probably everyone was looking at you a bit odd sort of thing.
Just a little bit.
And so that was... And then from there, you.
Bindu didn't care, you know. When we come to Divorce, he didn't care because he'd always been trying all his life, and he'd found some. So he'd be walking around in the dhoti, just walking around. He didn't have a problem, you know. He was an old hippie, so he didn't have a problem with what anyone said. He walked around the way they used to walk around. The way I always just, I was a little bit more reserved, you know, because I was just coming into it, and you know, of course I had a family and the children, but I wasn't overly, like in our dress, and it's not. But at that time when I was a little bit reserved, more of a closet devotee, a little bit. You know what I mean? In one sense. Well, especially in my hometown, a little bit initially. Going out and about, when people didn't know me. No, I wasn't. I was comfortable with it. I remember the first time we went on Harinam, just when. Were
you shy when you first went? Harinam's when we go and chant the mantra through the streets, right? With music.
You've seen us going through town.
Hare Krishnas.
That's Harinam.
Yeah, when we were out on the streets, we got instruments, and it was Tribhuvannath. Tribhuvannath is
he's ecstatic.
He was one of the founders of the Hare Krishna festivals in the UK. He was a driving force behind the festival team, going around chanting, setting up festivals. And
He's a legend now in the
yeah,
in the UK,
yeah. I asked him. This must have been 80. So it must have been 88, I guess, 87, maybe 87. I just started coming round, and I asked him to come down to do a festival because it's a good way of introducing people to the culture. We have a festival team. You have dramas, there's plays, and there's all some food, lots of food. Yeah,
people love it, don't they? They love it.
Yeah. And on that, I'm digressing a bit, but we had a Zoom call with Boris Johnson the other day, and we were just talking about food because of our Food for Life, our COVID-19 response. We've done, I don't know, was it over 100,000 plates of food, plant-based food, and now gone out. And I was telling the Prime Minister Boris that, and he was really impressed. He was like, because he had written down on his figures like 30-odd thousand at that time because we won the Points of Light Award. And that's recognition from the government for doing, the Food for Life team. And he said that he had a confession to make because he was talking about it. He said that when he was 17, he was with his then girlfriend, who was later to become his wife. He said that. And he said it a little sheepishly because he was a little short on money. He went and had some free food, at our temple in Soho Street.
There you go. It'll be all in the newspapers now.
Boris is a secret. He's a secret Hare Krishna. He's a closet Hare Krishna.
You heard it here first.
I was just name dropping then, by the way. I had a conversation with the Prime Minister.
With Boris.
Old muckers, we're muckers, me and Boris.
Yeah, because you were talking about festivals, and that's how we got on to it.
Talked about Prasadam, yeah. And we was in Cardiff, and I was on my first Harinam. It was my first real public exposure,
It's like coming out, isn't it?
Yeah, it was like coming out.
It's traumatic.
I've never come
I
out.
mean, I know,
I've never been. I didn't anyway to come out, by the way, but
now that we mention it,
yeah. But now you come to mention it, yeah. And to move, it was like a half circle, and it was raining that day, as it always is in Wales. And we were chanting, and I had these cartels, we call them, like hand cymbals, and I was clanging like a monkey. When you see these machines, I don't know what I was doing with them. Like some of the devotees in the temple, when they first come, they pick him up. Monkeys see monkeys doing this like this, just they bash, Well, I was like that, bashing these things, and I was thinking, and I was getting into the mantra, into the chanting, and then I looked again, and I could see it was Eric the milkman and his wife, because everyone knows Upper Valleys, from the valley, everyone knows everyone. So I could see him coming. He hadn't seen me at that point, so I kind of put my head down a little bit and kind of blended in. So I just sort of blend into the next first devotee, just kind of blend in between two. And as he was walking, so I was kind of clocking him a little bit, and as we were coming closer, then I could see his wife tapping one, and then point, you could see, look, that's Terry, and he's saying no, and he's shaking his head saying no. So I put my hood up at that point, because it was when I put the hood up and I was going down, and you go, yeah, there's Terry, and he said no, and I kind of walking over to him, and I went to check it, and I'm kind of turning away. And then he said, it is. And yeah, and I kind of kind of half acknowledged, but I was pretending to be all serene and chanting. I was like freaking out inside. I got exposed. So I was like, yeah. I mean, it's difficult for. I have empathy with people who kind of, especially in their hometowns, and they want to express some spirituality. They come in and because it's such, talking about tsunami, such a tsunami of energy against it, against the grain. It's really difficult. It's difficult for people.
Most of the people I knew, they just thought, he's taking too many drugs.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a phase he's going through. He goes through these things. He come out of it. It was just a phase, too many drugs or something, or it's just something he's going through his life. Well, I still get people sometimes coming, are you still into that thing? This is like 30 years later. Well, there must be something in it. So, as they say, example is always better than precept. You know, you just live that's you're showing the example. That's all. Terry from the Valleys can be. You know,
I mean,
anyone.
people I meet on who knew you from before, they've all got they've all got a lot of respect for you, sort of thing. I guess it breeds respect, innit, if you stick.
Yeah.
stick
I
with
told
it.
you it was last week when Bindu, he maybe said, he said, listen, because he's always been trying to get into it. I think we said it last week that
Okay, so if you take it up, they'll take it seriously.
they'll take you a bit more seriously than they'll take me. He said, 'cause I've always tried and I've always messed up. That's what he said. You know, I'm just crazy buzz. No one takes any notice of me. But he said, you do it, they'll take a bit more notice of you because you know who I am. Or you know, just my stature. You know.
It's mad, isn't it? Because he's like, he's found the truth or whatever, and he's trying to tell everyone, but no one's listening. Like, you know?
He's just crazy. He's on a rant again because he's always going on a rant, you know, about something. You heathens, Nathan, you know, Philistines. And he used to call us all that thing, you know, cavemen. You know.
Yeah, because that's, you know, have you heard of
I
Plato's...
would be in the pub just flicking flags at him or doing something. It's like, you know, they say what in the Bible, I mean, was it like a prophet or a preacher will never be accepted in his home. It's difficult for people to relate. It's difficult. It's difficult because you've had this internal change, this internal, you know, epiphany as they call it, you know, and then but no, you're still the same. People don't see that. That was one thing when I was first, you know, when you find it, I was just trying to explain, like I said last time. You start to talk to people, but they kind of, you know, what are you on about? You know, this is not you. What's going on? Who's in? You know, where are you? Where's the rugby player? Where's the beer boy? Where's the beer drink? You know. Why don't you come out on the weekend and just be like you was, be normal, you know, what are you trying to do? Because they don't, you know. So as we said last week, birds of a feather flock together, so you'll gravitate towards where you feel comfortable, that's natural. Crows will go to crows, as they say, and swans will, you never see them mixing in that sense. You know, so it's naturally you want to just go find someone who you can kind of actually relate to you. Which I had a hard time in the beginning because I had no one to relate to. I don't know, I was going completely insane. I did, you know, although I was having those thoughts anyway before I became completely insane. I don't know what was going on, but so, but am I getting brainwashed here? What's going on? You know, because I had no one to validate the bounce off, you know, at that time.
That's what I was going to ask you, Alan. So when was the first time you met your spiritual teacher? And what did that have an impact on you? Or is there maybe some other people who really inspired you to develop Krishna consciousness, sort of thing, if we're talking about?
I get Bindu, it was the first in, what are they called, Vatma Padaka?
Yeah,
Production Guru.
Production
Guru. They're the ones that point you to Krishna consciousness or to spiritual. That person, it might be someone that'll just give you a book on the street, or someone will say something. It could be anyone, you know. It could be a stranger. It's just something will resonate with you when they think, oh, they'll point you in a particular direction. We have that, you know, a chance meeting. People, you know, isn't people? You see these people that kind of make it rich sometimes, or they made it big time, and a lot of them say it was a chance meeting with someone. It was a chance. I happened to be walking down. I don't normally go that way, but I just happened to go this way into this shop in Priest on that day, met someone said something, and you know, so of course Bindu wasn't a chance meeting. He'd been banging on for you, known him for years. He'd been banging on for years. You got to slow down, get in there. You're going mad. You go just into the, you know, the culture up in the valleys, isn't it? Drinking beer, playing rugby, and going, you know, going nuts. But so he was the first one to connect. The first time I met my spiritual teacher was Shiv Ramswamy. Was in. I went to a program. It must have been 88, or 89, possibly. It must have been 88, 80. I think it was 89.
I was born in 1989. So long ago, you know.
And it was Bhagavata because it was a month, I can't remember, it was a program in Bhagavata was, and I think Shiv Ramaj was coming from, I think if I remember correctly, it was Lampeter. They had done some program up there. So
Lampeter?
Yeah.
West Wales.
In West Wales, yeah. Because Lampeter, isn't it, it's, Radhadesh is connected. What are they? Were accredited to Lampeter University.
Right.
So I don't know. So that was the beginning of the relationships. Or something there was some religious study or something. They went to. Can we turn that off?
I don't know.
It's just a bit
Can
warm.
you turn this here? It's the gas bottle at the back.
Oh, that's how you turn it off, is it? I just started to burn up. Yeah, there we go. Thank you. Yeah, so they were coming through. It was a special program. It would just happen to be passing through, and I'm going to go into a program, just go in there. So that's when he just. And I remember, like you said, they have this presence. He's spiritual. They have this presence, and he was like, well, I never met the guy before. You didn't even speak to him at that. I was like, just sitting in the back, kind of speaking to wow. They have this aura about them. You see it. Deep spiritual people. And I was like, well. I remember just kind of like staring at him as I thought it was an oddball. Because I've been trying to figure out what's going on. I don't know what's going on today. Still don't. So it was like that. So yeah, and then of course, then I met him at the manor. Then when I went to the manor, that's when Sachi was down. Sachi started to come down after those, because after the festivals with Tribhuvannath, then devotees started to come down. And that's when we started to kind of, I guess,
Teach Krishna consciousness.
yeah, get a foothold a little bit. We started to do festival programs a little bit. So Tribhuvannath come down. It was with Giri. He was back to John at the time. Giri. Yeah.
Were people receptive back then? Then I was wondering how, over the years, how has the landscape changed in terms of people's receptivity?
I think people are more. We'd accepted practically now as mainstream now.
Uh-huh.
It was a lot. Now we're going into schools. It wasn't that there was a big. Actually, on that festival, we had a festival in Cardiff University. I'd like to just tell a story. It was in the university. We had the program, and at that time, BBC Wales were filming something. I think it was the anti-cult. I don't know if it was the Mormons or not the Mormons. I can't remember who it was actually. There was someone that was trying to open up on the campus. They rented the building and they were trying some nefarious, to attract the students over. So the BBC film just happened to be at that time that we was trying to do a festival when we booked the hall. I don't know if this was going on. So we booked the hall. I booked the hall. I booked it, and then the BBC, because they filmed with cameras there, but at the time we didn't know, so they were filming us, But then they kind of lumped us on the end of this whole anti-cult thing and the students. And they didn't give us bad press, but we just got lumped on at the end because they interviewed a few people, and cause we was open with it. We was on the festival, and it was a free festival, inviting everyone to come along. But these other guys, I can't remember who it was. Not the Mormons, the Moonies. The Moonies, that's what I was thinking of, not the Mormons. It was the Moonies or something. And they had hired some student accommodation, and they were operating out of there, all clandestine. So they were into it, and then we happened to do a festival, lumped us on the end of it. And because of that, they banned us from the Students' Union. We got banned, because I was going to do a follow-up program then to see who was interested, and they said we were banned.
Because that documentary.
Because of the documentary, we were just lumped on. Found out then that, but the Students' Union, they were Christians anyway, so they had their religious take on things. So they wasn't exactly. So it's changed a bit since then. That was in the 80s. So I mean that wouldn't happen. But that was that's what.
That's what my dad used to say when I'd come to like Kirtan programs. He goes, "Oh, you're going to the Moonies again?" Like, I didn't know what the Moonies was, to be honest. Yeah. Is that like some kind of?
Yeah, it's not a religion. It's more of a philosophy, isn't it? It's more of
a,
I don't know. I don't know. It's more. I don't think it's.
Yeah.
I mean,
they got a bit of bad press. I know that they have a lot of bad press.
Yeah, I don't know if this person. I met like a Mooney preacher, and I don't.
There's just this guy on the street in Cardiff.
No, he's really weird.
Yeah,
and I don't know.
There's been one guy out here since when I first was doing Sankirtan. There's this one guy, and he used to come up to me, and he was all bizarre and
strange as anything.
And I used to say, "Back off, sister." You know what I mean? I don't. he always used to come and kind of
Weird, like,
he was creepy. Yeah, he'd be creeping up. I like, whoa, what are you up to? You know, I didn't. Then I realised who he was. He would never tell me who he was. That they was really like that. He was really, who are you? And he would and he would always be evasive. And I said, well, I'm a Hare Krishna. You're about, who are you? He wouldn't. He just wouldn't. He was really. If I say tactics, I mean, no wonder they have a lot of bad press. That was my only experience of them. I don't know.
I met one in Oxford, and he was really nice, but he was saying that he was offering me a wife. He was saying like the Korean.
Go Gita, you're in this.
But apparently that's how he was like hook people in. Like, okay, if you join our religion, then you get a wife, and they had these mass weddings or something.
Oh.
There's probably loads of comments on Facebook saying you're completely wrong and stuff.
Yeah,
but that's
It's in like Korea.
I know you're going to get woke. You're going to get cancelled.
I know, yeah.
Fair, like,
Come and get me. So, but now, like,
no, attitudes have changed completely. People are. I mean, that is one thing for the, you know.
Has attitudes to spiritual life in general changed as well, though? Because now you do get just kids now who are like self-harming. Instead, when they're questioning the meaning of life, instead of looking into things like religion and philosophy, they're given pills and drugs and stuff. Is there, or do you think it's a bit more?
I see children the young as generations, they are getting more and more psychologically damaged. It seems that's my perception. But on the other hand, people are more and more awake. You know, when I first started, you know, there was no yoga, no vegetarian. So on the one hand, people are a little bit more enlightened in that sense, you know, in the veganism and the environmental issues, and the way that people are more aware. The younger generation are more and more aware of the environmental issues. That's for sure. That was unheard of when it was.
So you think people are actually becoming more, like you said, those examples of vegetarianism, you know, yoga,
when I first became vegetarian, when I first became, this was what, 86, something like that, 86, and I didn't drive at the time, so you couldn't walk in the shops like you can now and just pick up a vegetarian meal. There was nothing. There was one Whole Foods shop in Caerphilly. I had to catch a bus from Abertwyth down to Caerphilly, just took about half hour. You had to go in, I had to order animal rennet, vegetarian cheese, and it took 10 days for it to come in. So I had to wait 10 days for that. Because I just live on cheese and toast. I didn't know how to cook. I just became vegetarian. There was nothing. So that was my staple diet. I was in the morning. I mean, if I become vegetarian because you're told, that's no good for you. You know, my father, it's not good for your health. And, you're not getting any iron from them. So I was in the mirror every morning looking in my eyes. Am I going am I going punch? I didn't know any different. I'm going to be vegetarian. That's what I'm going to do. Yeah.
It shows how things can change, isn't it? How culture can change, and if it wasn't for those people who made the difficult lifestyle choice of being vegetarian, then it wouldn't be an easy lifestyle choice now. If you know what I mean, in the 80s, you was either an old hippie, an ex-hippie, or you were mad to be a vegetarian. You were just, you were an oddball then, basically, to be a vegetarian. So, I mean, I was just coming in the 80s. People were waking up to it. There's no such thing as yoga and all this stuff. I don't remember. Save the world, save the climate, anything like that. Didn't exist.
They were all hippies. They were cranks. They were the.
Now I realise all the hippies were right.
They're all hippie for the environment. We're destroying the. What's that got to do with anything? What's that got to do with getting drunk on Friday night? What's that got to do with enjoying? It was. So in that sense. Definitely people are more, but on the other side, even though that we've materially advanced, with more and more material things, it's like mobile phones, computers, all this. This is like, people are not any happier. Even though they have more and more facility to enjoy, it's not making people happier for sure. And they've done that. There was a survey a few years ago. I always use that as an example that they've done a census. The government. They did it in 1950 or something in the 50s. What the percentage of the population were happy with their life, And I think it was something like 50-odd%, 53, 55% said they were happy with their life. So then 50 years later, which is in the noughties and in the early 2000s, they did the same survey, same amount of people, they went the same, so it's, and it was the amount of people, percentage had dropped by 20%. It was like low 30% or something were happy. So that's a drop of 20%, even though 50 years of technology, and in that 50 years, it's really escalated, you know, all the tech, but people are less satisfied, less happy. So there you go, folks. The science is telling you that, it's not just some Hare Krishnas banging on, it's a fact. Even though material things don't make you happy, things don't make you happy. If you're into things, you use people, and if you're into people, then you use things to help people. There's a difference. If you're just into things, getting material things, you'll use people to get things. Whereas if you're into people or into being, just a good human being, you use things to help people, and that's what we do. We're using things to be spiritual, to help people. That's if you want to gauge to be happy. How are we helping others? That's what. We have that thing to give is to grow. So the more you give, the more you grow. See, we think happiness is the more I get. That's the illusion. That's the big thing. So the more I get, the more happy I become. But actually, it's not. It's the more you give. The more you'll feel that satisfaction. The more you will, because the more you give, the more you'll get. In that sense. You won't get material things, maybe, but you'll have that inner satisfaction. And you'll see so many people always say this, isn't it? As it says in the good book, it's better to give than to receive. And when you do something good, there's definitely on the Richter scale, of satisfaction. There's more of an inner, when you do something for someone, it's more satisfying than when you get. It's more satisfactory than when you give a present and you see someone open that present or the child. You'll get a certain satisfaction more than what you do. Than what you've given it, because it goes on a deeper level or a higher level. So that's what giving is. That's where we'll actually, and that goes on, of course, many different levels that you can give, on many different levels. We talk in the ultimate level you can give is to connect people, to the self, to who you are, not to what you are, but to who you are. Then you can find out who you are, then you can, okay, now I know how to make myself happy, because now I know who I am. I didn't know who I was before.
Yeah, you should work out who you are before you decide what to do, what you should do.
Yeah, figure out who you are. Then once you figure that out, that's the fundamental, then you can start doing something about it. We've gone deep again now, haven't we? We sombered up that.
I was going to ask you if there's any questions on the Facebook or anything, Charlie?
One question.
It's 9:45. Yeah, me and you both. I'm drinking this tea again.
I started to think that because I've been trying to drink more water.
Yeah.
So I've drank about 3 litres of water this morning. And I've just done nothing but just want to go to the toilet.
If you're going to do that, you've got to sit next to a toilet. If you're going to cram it all in one, in a few hours, you can't go far from a bathroom. That's physics. That's nothing to do with spirituality. Go, pal.
Next week on the Welsh Yogi.
Yeah. How to drink 3 litres and not go to the bathroom.
Sorry, Charlie, go on.
Yeah, so there's a question from Greg Locke. It says, Haribol Prabhu, did your family, friends take to accept your Krishna consciousness immediately, or was it a process?
My father never did accept it. My father never did. He couldn't. I mean, like I said, those, I say it's lots of people, more casual, there's many different levels when you have relationships with people, so those casual people who knew me, I was just a crank then, and I'd never seen them practically, but the few people that do come up to me, as I said earlier on, the few genuine friends, they say, yeah, they still have few connections with, and no, they still say, they're still into this, wow, and they'll, they appreciate. Like I say, there's something in it. Because I used to drive past the pub, the Arbor Hotel. I used to go in,
I've seen that Arbor Hotel.
Yeah, it's still there. I missed a few years ago. This is like after 20 years. This is a few years ago now. After 20 years, I just drove past and I seen the same people sitting at the same table, playing the same... Because I used to do it, sitting and playing the same game of cards. This is like
same thing.
Same thing over and over. Yeah.
Groundhog Day.
Yeah. It's Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
And I was like, kind of, what? So when they come up to me, they're like, you're still into that? Because they know that people have been doing the same thing since ever, you know?
Still into these cards?
Yeah.
Must be something in it.
Yeah.
Oh, what about your brother? Because you had a younger brother who's passed away, right?
Yeah, he died a few years
How did
ago.
you
No,
do it?
he appreciated. I was always the older brother for him. You know, so he's always kind of looked up to me, and the family accepted me. The immediate family thought I was a bit cranky, you know. But my brother, he appreciated because he just seen. I was just kind of like I was his older brother, kind of growing up. So I used to play rugby. I was always something he was trying to emulate, like his, you know. Like I say, we all got to have role models, you know. We all have role models in life. And when I was young, and I was wasn't a very good role model, by the way. But
I know.
But so he always appreciated. He said to me, "I'd like to get into what you were getting into." As he says that, he was snorting a line of coke or something. But he knew what he was doing. But when it's too late, you know, people don't, you know, get into. They don't take drugs to become a drug addict. They don't become it to become junkies. Yeah, but they don't start out like that. It's just that's been in that search for happiness. That's what happens. You just get addicted. You get hooked. And that's life. You can't. You buy into life. You're trying to find. You just get addicted and you can't pull out. They don't set out to become a junkie. Whatever addiction, whatever compulsions people get into, they're covering something up. That's what that is. They're dissatisfied. We're all like that. We can become dissatisfied with life. So we kind of, there's a gap. There's this dissatisfaction, and some people cover that up in many ways. You know. Binge drinking, binge eating, you know what I mean? Suicidal, homicidal, killing sprees, bringing down towers, or whatever we're doing. We're covering up that dissatisfaction. That's what's going on. We're not dealing with it. So we say, "You're deal back." It says, "Deal with it, and then, but it's internal. You got to deal with it. Internally. So getting back my father couldn't get his head. When I became vegetarian was one thing. He really couldn't, because he's like farming stock, and he always had a small holding with chickens and pigs, and I remember Christmas time, when first Christmas I was vegetarian. He said, I said, "I don't have any meat. Don't give me meat, on Christmas dinner." He said, "Why not?" I said, "Because I don't want it." I said, "No, I'm just vegetarian." He said, "You can't do that." I said, "Why can't I do that?" He said, "Because we've always done it." I said, "So?" And he said, "My father done it, your grandfather's done it, his father's done it." It's like some big family tradition. I was like a heretic, for breaking with family tradition just to become a vegetarian. Then he found out I was a devotee. I was like, I go and do lally taps. He couldn't. That was a vegetarianism. He accepted. Okay, that's you. But he couldn't get his head around that. But family. Immediate family. I mean, especially for my wife and kids, they didn't have, they sacrificed a lot. I mean, in the early days, especially my wife, she sacrificed her lifestyle what we was having. But she's a good wife in that sense that she stuck by the. She knows where her bread is buttered, doesn't she? Go back.
You got a really nice family, Jackie, Jodie.
Yeah. So. Initially, there was always those, but that's good. I learned that's to be accepted. Anyone who has a little bit of any religious inclination or spiritual inclination, they'll always get. Not so much now, but then I mean, using the Bible, look at Christ. He was persecuted.
Yeah, I mean, it happens. I know some devotees who even in other countries, they don't even tell. Like there's one lady, she's getting initiated, but she can't tell her husband that she's a Hare Krishna, because it's I don't know if it's
what to speak like in Russia and in the communist countries, not so much, but they were beaten, persecuted. They were really beaten and badly
taken to concentration camps and tortured and stuff.
we might complain about the government, the secular government. At least we got freedom of speech. You know, in that we can practice. So we're fortunate in that sense. You know, as
Any
far as
problems? Just give Boris a call, innit?
I'll give Boris. I'll get on the phone. So
Get him on the phone.
yeah.
Anything else, Charlie? Or?
Because it's 10 to we don't want to go to the bath.
From Nadine Aylward. Do you chat about Krishna consciousness regularly with your family? Did your immediate family become vegetarian with you?
My immediate, yeah, because I as a traditional, I know it's like, no, I was the traditional, you know, head of the household. I don't know if it happens that much so much these days now, but you know, I said that's we all, you know, I was vegetarian, so the whole household. And my children were young; they're all vegetarian. They're still vegetarian. At that time, yeah. And I remember taking, I think it was Nicola. She was, there was kids growing up, you know, and she had some fainting spells or something, and they were giving her examinations and something. And then the first thing they said, then they found out a vegetarian. He said, "Oh, that's it then." They couldn't figure it out. But as soon as she said vegetarian, I said, "No, you know, you can just listen." It was just some phase. They never, you know, she was kind of fine, but yeah, that's what it was. You know, Luke was a celiac, so his condition, you know, he's gluten free, and we didn't know until he was like, I think it was about 2 or 3 before he was diagnosed, and then. Because he was vegetarian, and then the dietitian said, "You've got to give him meat," and I said, "No, I'm not going to give him meat." You know, they was really putting pressure on me, and they wasn't backing up with anything. He needs it for his because he's a celiac, and I wouldn't, and I said, "No, I'm not doing that." You know, I was, and then because he had to go then for his yearly checkup, you know, for his growth. And then the following year, and then for every subsequent year, his growth was above average for the celiac, for his growth, for his bones, and he was nothing. You know, that's the mainstream. You know, their narrative. You have to eat meat. You have to eat meat. And you didn't need to, and they were putting pressure on me to eat meat. You know, to give the kids meat. And a lot of people I know have been vegetarian in their children, and you know they have too much faith in that system when they say eat meat, and they give the children meat and things like that because they panic. Oh, that's what the authorities say. But it's not backing up with any evidence. I don't think it's like that now, but I'm just, you know.
Yeah, generally they say if a doctor tells you to eat meat, if you go to a doctor who's vegetarian, they'll tell you, you know.
Yeah,
that's ridiculous.
It's like a lottery then. There's no science because it's not backed up.
Go to a vegetarian doctor if you.
Yeah. But it was.
Like you said, the taboo's all gone now, really.
Yeah,
like
mostly. Yeah.
Just, you know.
So the family become. As for chanting, I never kind of really imposed it on the family. I used to take them to India and make it more of a holiday for them, like that when we used to go. I took them to Brindavan, and they were kids, you know, as they were growing up, let them finding their own. But I was there for them, still am, you know. You know, so then the kids didn't. They initially when they were young, they chant a little bit. We go together with the family. Yeah, they would do it. Same as any other family. You take them whatever. When the children are under control, like they just follow what the parents do anyway. But when they start to develop their own minds, so to speak, you know, they still have affiliation. But you know, they're not. They're devotees in one sense, but they're not not into it as philosophically as. Same as Jackie, my wife. She's not. I wouldn't say, you know, but she's done lots of service over the years. She's like, when you have one partner, sometimes Krishna consciousness can polarize family. It can polarize relationships. So it'll depend upon the strength of the person who's had that kind of conversion. And so if the other hasn't, it'll depend upon how they react. If they're antagonistic, if they really they don't like and are against it, then it can polarize. Depending on the strength of that person that's kind of converted, he'll either not do it or he'll do it and the relationship can break like that. You know, and if the other person is favourable, sometimes you see families come like you know, husband and wife or boyfriend and girlfriend, they come together. You know, and they get into spiritual. But if the partner, the other part, is neutral, then that'll depend upon the strength of the other person. Then you can pull them along. So it's kind of like that with Jackie. She's neutral. She's not antagonistic. She's not overly, you know. So she just comes. So she'll just go with the flow. that depends upon the strength of my strength in my spiritual and my practices then. So you can kind of you kind of pull them along then, and it's in the Bhagavatam. The more she'll share the wife shares in all the, and vice versa in the piety, in the spiritual credit that you get, from doing that. So they'll share this. Is
it true when Sri Ramaswamy opened the temple and restaurant in Swansea, he said, "Where's Jackie? Jackie should be here because it wasn't for her.
Yeah.
Then this wouldn't have happened or something."
Yeah. Without her support, I would never. Without giving me the freedom that she did. Mind you, she said she's glad to get me out of the house. Yeah, I'm glad to get rid of him, get out. But I used to go off and for weeks, so that's what I'm saying. She sacrificed a lot, She making there's a lot of. Yeah, and he's right. He said without her back in, because she could have been putting pressure on, to stay there with the family, to be there with her and whatever, be more, But she was, she's not that needy a person, Fair play. So that, that's what he said. So, if you're listening, Ak, there you go. That's as good as it gets.
Do you think she'd listen?
No, that's why he said it.
So I think we'll finish there then.
I got to run to the bathroom.
Yeah. So come on again. I think we're going to have a chat Atma next week. Yeah. And
okay.
Come on, yeah.
Bye everybody.
Thank you everyone. Go on, Ben. You going to say something?
Are we doing is Atma open today? If you're listening, come to Atma and you can have a free meal. Is it? If you listen to the Welsh Yogi podcast.
Yeah.
And you are.
Well, what they got to say? How do they know? How do they know?
Say Welsh Yogi podcast.
15.
Is it?
I mean, if that's going every week, it was 14 last week.
Yeah, but next week it's going to be different. Next week it's going to be really
16. Yeah.
Now, if next week you say Welsh Yogi podcast 16, we know that you're lying. So it'll be different now.
What a great ending.
Okay, well, thanks everyone. Thanks, Tak. Now, thanks, Ben.
Madhya Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Madhya Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda